Okay, so Paula, would you mind kicking us off with an introduction?
Sure, absolutely. How is everyone doing? Hopefully you're having a good evening. So my name is Paula Abbruzzese. I'm originally from Toms River, New Jersey. So big debate, is it South Jersey, North Jersey, Central? I like to call it Central since it's an hour from AC, but I went to Rutgers, New Brunswick from 2010 to 2014. I double majored in psychology and human resource management. And during my time there, I was involved in like the orientation leader roles. I internship in living learning communities. And then I had my first HR internship at JPMorgan Chase on the talent development team. And I know we'll talk a little bit about that later, so I won't go into that now, but that's just a high level overview. Pleasure to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Paula. Romario?
Hi, everyone. My name is Romario Nicholas, and I am a Rutgers alum of 2018. I graduated in 2018 with a concentration in analytics, and I'm mastered in human resources management, and I'm currently working at Trane Technologies as an HR generalist, and I am super excited to be here.
Thanks, Romario. Ashley?
My name is Ashley Steinma, and I graduated from Rutgers my master's in human resources management this past year in 2020. During my time at Rutgers, I interned at manufacturing site Mobile, Alabama, pretty well. And now I'm currently in the rotational program based out of Houston, Texas. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ashley. Ayana?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ayana Phoenix, and I'm a Rutgers alum of 2017. And I was in the master's program for HR at the same time as Romario, so it's cool to be on the same panel as him. I went to Rutgers undergrad as well, and I was an HR and psychology double major, and I minored in Spanish. I decided to go straight through and get my master's, and I was able to graduate in a year. So I'm excited to talk to you all today about the rotational program I was in and to hear about the experiences of my other panelists.
Thanks so much. Molly?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Molly Stone. I went to Rutgers for undergrad and graduate school. So in undergrad, I double majored in HR and labor relations and minored in digital communication information media. And then I went right into the one-year accelerated program. I actually went the same time Ashley did. And I got my master's in HR. And then I started full-time at Corning Incorporated in their rotational program. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Thanks, Molly. And finally, we have Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Labinger. I have graduated from Rutgers twice, first with my undergraduate degree in biology, and then with my master's in HR management in 2019. I am currently working at IBM in their rotational program, where I also interned during graduate school in diversity and inclusion. I'm in my second rotation, soon to be in my third. And like my fellow panelists, I'm really excited to be here and just love being able to speak with current students at Rutgers.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I think I want to highlight just the interconnectedness. You know, so many of you know each other, and I think that speaks to the amazing community that we have here at Rutgers, and specifically within similar, you know, that we have these connections that we have. So this is great. Okay, so our first question for all of you, can you tell us a little bit more about your HR leadership development program or the rotational program that you've gone through? If you could share some of the details that might be specific to your company, that would be helpful. And maybe we can go in the same order of introduction. So Paula, if you want to kick us off.
Sure, absolutely. So our HR LDP program is based in all over, it's global. It's 3 8-month rotations. And I would say within the US, the location hubs are Plano, Texas, Columbus, Ohio, and Newark, Delaware. Those are the 3 sites. So when I did the program, it was actually 4 6-month rotations. And so I did my first rotation in an HR business partner role, which is like the generalist function within HR, supporting asset management. So that was everything from partnering with our various HR partners on talent processes, on diversity inclusion, employee relations. So I got a flavor of the different functions, but it was very high level. So they try and have everyone do at least one HR business partner rotation, compensation rotation. So I did that for the corporate investment bank, supporting the investment bank and the staff functions group. So that was through our whole year-end comp cycle, got to see from the planning, during, and all the checks that happen after the comp cycle. I also did employee relations, HR regulatory affairs, which was a hybrid rotation, did talent development and recruiting, which was another hybrid rotation. So really about this whole HRLDP program, the goal of it at JPMorgan Chase is more so to get a variety of experiences under your belt within 2 years, really test drive, see what area you're most inspired to be in, and then post a program, hopefully find a placement in a non-rotational role. Hopefully that's enough information. Carlos, just high level, but I'm excited to hear what the other HR program structures are like.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Paula. Romario, how about your program?
Yeah, so the HR development accelerated development program at Trane Technologies is configured to be 2.5 years. So there's 2 one-year rotations, 1 rotation in a plant environment, 1 rotation in a corporate environment, and then 6 months in a specialist, or other companies may call it a center of excellence role. So for my experience, I first worked in a plant in Tyler, Texas, where I was able to manage the early talent program for the Tyler site, so the Texas site, as well as some of our sister sites as well throughout the eastern side of the United States. And then I moved on to my Center of Excellence role, where I worked on the people analytics team to get a better understanding of, how do we use data as a business partner in order to support not only our sites, but also, our corporate functions as well. And then my third rotation was in corporate. So the role functioned more of as a business partner. So I had a unique opportunity where we acquired a business, and it was my responsibility to lead the integration for that business and create the integration plan over the course of 2 years. So I would say that's typically the scope of the leadership development program at Trane Technologies. Now they've configured it where you have to work in a more centralized area in the corporate location, which is Davidson, North Carolina. So someone who gets into the accelerated development program at Trane would start off in the 1-year rotation in corporate, move into Center of Excellence role, and then more of a business partner role in corporate as well. So that's how the program is configured.
Okay, thanks, Romario. Ashley.
So currently right now I'm in Honeywell's rotational program. And so Honeywell's rotational program works is that it's 3 15-month rotations. So in total, it's a little over 3 years. And so really we have 5 central businesses. So let's say you start out your rotation, you would start out one of the 5 central businesses. So for me, I'm currently supporting one business's portion of the supply chain entity. So I support supply chain. I sit at Honeywell's, one of Honeywell's headquarters in Houston. And so typically when you start out on the program, you start out as a business partner or a generalist, and you could be, placed anywhere in the United States within one of those 5 businesses. And either you could be sitting at a corporate headquarters, or you could be sitting at a manufacturing site. And so you would start out as that in your first 15 months. And then you would go into a center of excellence role, or, as we kind of spoke about earlier, Romario said, an HR specialty role, such as comp and benefits, talent acquisition, talent management. Can go into that your second or third rotation, you kind of stay in the business partner role. And so for myself currently, as I said, I'm sitting in one of the headquarters in Houston, and I support supply chain right now. I support a few of the corporate functions and focus on specialized HR projects.
Thanks. Ayana?
So I work for Disney now, but I did the rotational program at General Electric, and that was called the HR Leadership Program. So that program it changed a bit since I was recruited into it, but right now it is 3 8-month rotations over 2 years. That's kind of like the standard, and it's a global program. So GE has these rotational programs that are accelerated in a lot of perspectives, and they have it for HR, finance, and about 5 other tracks. And for HR, they would basically move us. So we had to get used to moving every 8 months. Some of the other programs, people could be a little bit more stagnant in a rotation. And for some other programs, it's 4 6-month rotations. But for HR, it was 3 8-month rotations, and it could have been anywhere in the US or even abroad, depending on what company or what business you were placed with. So when I joined GE, they had at least 11 different verticals that you could have been matched with. And I was matched with the digital business, which was the newest P&L, at the time, newest business. And so that business had completely different rotations than some of the other businesses like power, aviation, healthcare, the businesses that were more legacy manufacturing businesses. So I never worked in a plant environment. But I worked first in San Ramon, California at headquarters, and I was a talent development specialist. Then I moved to Miami, Florida, and I was a site HR manager there. And then I moved back to San Ramon, California, where I was an HR manager for the commercial teams. So for my program with the digital business, you really could have been rotating in one of the 6 hubs that we had. And it was San Ramon, California, Seattle, Cincinnati, Atlanta, New Orleans, or Miami. And we really didn't know where we'd be going until maybe like a month before, honestly. So it was a very dynamic program, super accelerated. They challenged us a lot because there was a lot of changes in the HR team. So we were placed in roles that HR business partners were doing. And I really can say that that's what made this program super accelerated, because the goal is to, the output is to have HR leaders who could be HR managers. And so that program was very cool because there was also 2 global HR seminars or conferences each year that you're on program. And so it depends on which business and region wanted to host. But the first rotation or the first conference was in Cincinnati, where all of the global HRLPs from around the world came in Cincinnati for a week, and we just learned best practices for HR. And then the second one that I went to my last year was in Shanghai, China. And so GE China hosted us. And so that was a big hallmark of the HR program at GE. And probably one of the reasons why most people apply to it. And so it was a great program.
Thank you. Molly?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I work for Corning Incorporated, and our HRLDP program is specifically pipelined for manufacturing HR. So we have 3 one-year rotational programs in different units. So the first generally is either our BUHR, business unit HR, such as finance, legal, IT. So you're an HR generalist supporting those groups. And then generally we move into a center of excellence, which is like talent acquisition, benefits, compensation, those more specialized areas. And then generally our final rotation is a manufacturing location where you actually get to work as an HR generalist at one of our manufacturing sites. We have locations across the United States. We have some from Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm in North Carolina. We have many in upstate New York and upper upstate New York. So really all over the East Coast, all the way to the West. As far as my experiences within my rotations, so I started in Corning, New York in the diesel manufacturing facility as an HR generalist supporting the hourly processes and functions. So I had a lot of exposure to the employee relations and just like generalist work, working as a kind of like an HR consultant role there. And then I was moved into the HR strategy rotation. So I actually was in a unique position where I was helping our chief of staff for HR develop the 5-year HR strategy that we're implementing within our organization now. So I was a project manager for that work, and it was much more high level and strategic. And then 8 months into that role, I have been rotated into the current position I'm in now. So I'm the HR project manager for Corning Pharmaceutical Technologies in Durham, North Carolina. And it's actually a startup within an existing facility. So I am the HR manager in charge of hiring all of our operating unit, as well as helping with all the salaried hiring, policy implementation, basically all of the fun jazz with creating a whole new facility within an existing facility. So I'm working as an HR generalist in that space now. So that's what I'm doing. So very diversified experience. It can be catered to your interests. You can move kind of based on how much you want to. If you start in the Corning Valley, you're less likely to move every year for the next 3. If you start in an out of Valley location, you're more likely to move more. So it's really catered to what you want to do, what your interests are. Generally, you get to pick your assignment, or you have a lot of weight in your next assignment or your next rotation, because they really value your perspective on where you need to be developed. So those are some of the benefits of my program and my experiences so far.
Thank you. And we have Rebecca.
So I am currently in IBM's leadership development program in my 2nd year, and the structure itself is a 3-year program with 1-year rotations. It is a corporate environment, and there are 2 major locations that we're placed in, either Armonk, New York, which is more of the upstate area, about 30 to 40 minutes north of the city, or Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm currently located in Raleigh, North Carolina. Molly, we'll have to link up offline. So cool that you're in Durham. And so I was relocated for my first rotation. And And it's pretty cool because you really get a choice in your rotations. And there are 5 different domains of HR that we're placed in. So either talent, leadership, learning and inclusion, an HR business partner, compensation, or transformation and operations. And then the way that our roles are chosen is very strategic. Our program manager works with what we call the pillar champions of these 5 pillars of HR, and place the HR LDPers in strategic positions throughout the organization. And it's really great visibility as well. For example, in my second year of working in a corporate environment, I work in executive succession and development. So right now I have a hand in helping to redesign our entire senior vice president succession planning design, essentially, from identification to development to placement of roles. And it's very cool to be in this kind of position. And we have a lot of great opportunities and stretch projects as well. So on top of any responsibilities that I have for my functional role, I am able to seek out different opportunities I want to volunteer or areas that I'm interested in. For example, talent acquisition, you can go seek out something yourself, but then also people are always looking for LDPers. So they will go through our program manager and ask for volunteers to work in projects. So it's a really great way to network, and there's a lot of different avenues to meet people and just continue to build your brand, build your skills, and build your career here.
Awesome, thank you. I think it's always interesting to hear some of the commonalities, but also the differences between all these different programs at these different companies. So thanks for sharing that. So the next question is more so about your experience applying and interviewing for these programs. So if you could share a little bit about what that experience was like, and also maybe some of the ways that you prepared to apply and to go through some of these interviews. And maybe we can go in reverse order this time. Rebecca, do you want to get us started?
Sure. So they recruit for our program through the intern program. So the summer of between my first and second year of grad school is when I had my IBM internship. And that internship is essentially the precursor to the HR LDP program. And we have our summer, and then at the end of it, there is this 3-day event called Invitational, where we present our group project that we worked on all summer to the HR management board, which are all of the top senior vice presidents in human resources. So that was really fun. We got to speak in our CEO's reading room, which is also a once in a lifetime opportunity. And from there, day 2, we have interviews with 2 different executives to get into the program. And then we also had to fill out an application where we gave our preferences, where we wanted our first rotation to be. And at the time, you could give location and functional preferences, but I'm not too sure about location preferences anymore. I think everyone is now migrating towards the New York area. And from there, I think it was about maybe a month after my interviews and after the internship ended is when I found out that I was accepted into the program. And that was really nice for me personally to have that kind of security in October of my final year in grad school. I know sometimes it could be quite difficult throughout the year to have that job hunt. It's like having a second job. So that really was probably my favorite part about the whole process, is that it did occur so early and I was able to have that sense of relief for the rest of grad school.
Thanks. Molly, how about you?
Yeah, so I actually found out about the position opening through the handshake tool. So I got like a blast email and I recognized the company name because my mother is from upstate New York. So I had heard of Corning as the brand for a very long time. So I applied through Rutgers Handshake, and we do recruiting events at Rutgers every year. It's one of our main pipeline schools along with Cornell. So we generally pretty heavily target trying to recruit from Rutgers. So that was just part of the communication around that. And then I was accepted for an interview, and I actually got to fly out. We have a private jet that goes from Madison, New Jersey to Corning, New York. So very fun. It was just for an internship position, and I got to fly out in our little jet, which was really cool. And I went to the Corning headquarters facility in Corning, New York, and I had a series of 5 interviews with different individuals who were stakeholders in the program. So our program manager, their assistant, different key leadership in HR. So we have pretty high level individuals who interview us, which is a really interesting experience. And then I also toured a manufacturing facility to make sure that I was comfortable with that environment and that I could see myself working in that kind of facility, because it is much different than working in a corporate headquarters location, anything like that. So it was a very long day. And then I was accepted into intern, and similar to what Rebecca was saying, it's kind of a pipeline into the program. So it's like an extended interview process, but we also hire from graduation into the program. So it's really based on if you want to learn more about the company before you commit to a full-time 3-year rotational program, or you can just go straight in if you want to. But similar to her experience as well, through my internship, I did 2 for Corning. I got an offer that first year, so I knew for the next 1.5 years of school that I had a secured job offer. So all throughout graduate school and the remaining semester of undergrad, I had a job offer, which was fantastic. So that's pretty much our process, is you come on site, meet a bunch of people, tour facility, and then you get offer extension from there.
Thanks. Ayana.
So I applied to the HR leadership program at GE through Rutgers, through basically career night. I think that's what it was called before Handshake. And this was the fall of 2016, right when I started the grad program. And Rebecca's right, looking for a job is like another job. It's a full-time job, applying, preparing, then you're already a full-time student. So it was a very stressful period for me, those first 2 months of the grad program. And I found out about the opportunity at GE through a friend who was also in the program. And I didn't know much about HR rotational programs, but I did know that I wanted something that could give me a lot of breadth of experience in different assignments and departments within HR. And this was perfect because GE kind of targeted at the time people who had a master's degree in HR or IO psychology or labor relations, and people who were early career. And so that's a very niche audience, I think, in that I was applying to a lot of things that wanted people with a lot of experience with a master's. And so for people like me who were going straight through from undergrad to get their master's, rotational programs like GE and several other companies it was a perfect fit. So I applied literally like the day after my friend told me about the opportunity, and I applied within career night. And I was also going to career fairs to just get to know the recruiters at these different companies that had rotational programs. And I think there was a career fair right after I applied to the GE HRLP program. And I went up to the person recruiting for GE and I gave her my name and I told her that I applied and I'm very interested to learn more about the role. And it was awesome because GE came back on site to do interviews, and I got an interview, which I was shocked about that. And I interviewed on the second floor of I think the career center for Similar, right in back of Niana's office. And I was so nervous because I had just come from class and I was all dressed up, had to prep for the interview, then run back to a class. And it just was the most comfortable I've ever felt during an interview for a job on campus. And it was my 3rd interview with a company for a job, a full-time job. And I got the offer 24 hours after they interviewed. So they interviewed all the candidates at the colleges they were going to around the country, and they would make an offer decision within 24 hours, which was pretty quick. I was shocked that they were able to just act that quickly. And the candidate experience was really good because we interviewed, but then we didn't have to wait and, in suspense for a long time to figure out what was the decision. And I didn't intern with them a summer before. I wish I had known about these type of internships, but I didn't intern. And so for a lot of the HRLPs who are on program, most of them do intern, and that's the best way to go about it. So whenever we get to the advice section, I will tell you about the importance of going to the Career Center and getting internships ahead of time. But I got the full-time offer, and I was so blessed to have gotten that so early. So I had that satisfaction in October that I had a full-time job that I'd be starting when I graduated in May. So that was huge. But after that offer came 24 hours later, it kind of wasn't over. The onboarding process was kind of extended in that we had to go to a weekend-long summit with all the HRLPs who were hired, and we had to basically get matched with the GE business. So all the business leaders flew out to Ossining, New York at Crotonville, which is GE's International Learning Center. It's like a college campus. And say a month after our first interview, we had to kind of vie for a spot with the different businesses. So they set it up like speed dating, which was really stressful for me. And by the end of that weekend, we got matched with a specific business. I was matched with digital. My friend who told me about the program also got an offer. She was matched with GE Power, and she's still with Power to this day. So that was my experience applying and getting hired to GE's HRLP program.
Thank you, and thanks for the career services plug. Ashley, how about you?
So I didn't do my undergrad at Rutgers. I actually went to University of Delaware. So I was at Rutgers for 2 years. And so I started out going in September, and I didn't really know much about the career services. I really honestly just went and didn't really know what was there to offer. And immediately, like my first month in, it was, I heard about all these different interview processes for internships. And so I was like, okay, I'm interested, And so really Rutgers really helped like set up my interview process and for me for this rotational program. So I know I first heard about Honeywell through Rutgers, but they were interviewing on campus for internships for the summer. So I knew I was interested. And so similar to Ayana's experience, I was also on the second floor interviewing with someone from Honeywell about the internship. And then shortly after the interview, I believe it was a few hours later, I found out that I was invited to go to DC to their office there. They would fly a few of us out there that were offered interviews to go out to DC. And that it would be like almost like a 2-day event where it consisted of networking, case studies, and also just a few rounds of interviews. It was really to see, okay, it's almost like a pipeline to get into the business or get into the rotational program. So it was that process of, having a case study, working together with people that you just met that day that came from all over different schools, and also to having those round of interviews with different executives. So then after that 2-day event, I would say it was less than 24 hours later, I found out I was offered an internship, and I was placed actually in Mobile, Alabama. And I'm originally from New Jersey, so that was definitely out of my comfort zone. I was unfamiliar with that, but I just thought it was for the summer, it'd be a great experience. And so then what I did was, and it was nice also knowing so early on, I think it was October, that I already had a plan for the summer. So then I started out with my internship in June. It was a 12-week internship. And so I was involved in the day-to-day functions of the manufacturing site, but also I know a few of us have said, I was involved in the project where a few of the interns and we worked together on an HR project, and we had to deliver it to the HR executives of Honeywell. So they flew us out to Charlotte, and we prepared a project for them, our deliverables, and presented it to them. And I would say that was in the middle of my internship, so let's say July. And then I would say right before my internship ended in August, I found out that I was to receive an offer for a full-time role for the Honeywell Pathways rotational program. And so it was really nice knowing that, I had a job going into my last year of graduate school. And so big thanks to Rutgers for that one, because they definitely helped me, with these opportunities that we haven't known about them. So great. It was really great.
Thanks, Ashley. Romario.
Yeah, so for my experience, it's very similar to IBM's, in which the ADP program, or ADP Accelerated Development Program, is predicated on the internship. So, I had a really great opportunity just to interview from meeting the recruiter at the career fair. His name is Brian, and we had a great conversation, interviewed, and honestly, I actually didn't get the internship the first time, which I think there's a little bit of an understory there. So I didn't get the internship the first time, and I continued to apply through my second semester of grad school. And fortunately, I did get another offer, but at that time it was Ingersoll Rand. They gave me an offer to come to Charlotte, North Carolina, and my other offer was staying in New York. So for me, I was like, well, let me get outside of my comfort zone and try something else. So I went to Charlotte. It was for 3 months, and it was in Davidson, North Carolina, which is a very small, I guess, suburb in North Carolina. So for that internship, they really set the precedence in the beginning, which was, this internship is a pipeline into the Accelerated Development Program. So the strategic projects that the company is assigning to us, you are going to have to leverage that in order to speak to that when it comes to the interview at the end of the 12-month internship. So by them articulating or communicating that to us, it set the precedence that, the 12 weeks is not going to be just getting experience. You're really going to have to hone in on how are you adding value from the internship to the business that you're supporting? And that really set in perspective for me, how am I going to add value through the work that I'm doing? And over the course of the 12 weeks, I had to really focus on like, okay, what is the project that I'm working on? How am I going to apply this into the interview? And I guess synthesize it with some of the values that the company had back then. So as far as interviewing, the way they set it up, and it has changed over the last, I guess, 2 years. There was a panel of HR leaders that I would be presenting to. It was 15 minutes. And, as master's students, that 15 minutes goes by really fast. Like, the introduction alone is like 5 minutes. So yeah, you really had to figure out like, what are you articulating? What is the value that you added to the business? And, how does that set you, I guess, apart from everyone else? So as far as my interviewing experience, it was very challenging because not only did I have to really think about, what did I do over the summer? How did I add value? And how will I continue to add value if I do get accepted into the program? And I had to articulate that in a very confined time period. So like everyone else was saying, eventually I did get an offer from the company, and it was really it was a blessing just having an opportunity to go through grad school without the stress of applying to other jobs, because like everyone else is saying, it is a full-time job applying to jobs, and you can't be discouraged when you get multiple no's. So yeah, that was my experience applying to Trane Technologies, and I really have to articulate that it has changed because at one point we were Ingersoll Rand and now we're Trane Technologies. So our interview methods have changed. So that was about 3 years ago.
Thanks, Romario. And Paula.
All right, I had myself on mute there. So my experience was completely unplanned. So I'll walk you through what that looked like. But essentially, I remember walking through the LSC, if they still call it, the Livingston Student Center, and I saw there was a flyer for a panel of JP Morgan Chase employees coming to chat about HR. So I figured, why not join? I go to the panel. I love hearing about everyone's experiences, the type of projects they worked on, like the leadership development component of the program. And then at the end, they said the deadline's tonight to apply. So all of a sudden I'm like, okay, how do I figure this out? I want to apply. So I immediately went back to my dorm, looked at my resume, tailored it to the job description, right? Look at the job description. That's a good piece of advice to give to everyone, is look at the job you're applying for and how do you create alignment and that linkage from your resume to what they're looking for. So I went ahead, I did that and tried to bring in like my HR experience from like other opportunities. What are those transferable skill sets? And then, I applied. I set up time with Len Garrison, who was one of my professors at the time and works in career services. I see heads nodding. Yep. And I chatted with him because I didn't really think financial services. I knew I wanted to go into HR. I knew I was very passionate about talent, but I was on the fence. I'm like, I loved hearing about their experience, but a bank. So I chatted with him. He's like, just do the interview, right? Like if you get a call back, just have the conversation and learn more. So I waited, got the call back, and there were 2 on-campus interviews right at Career Services. So I think there were 2 40-minute interviews, if I remember correctly. And one was with an HR exec, actually 2 HR execs. And so basically in terms of preparation, I went online, read everything I could about JP Morgan Chase, learned everything I could about HR, obviously keeping up with the news, if there's any opportunity to bring current events, and just really had a dialogue, right? About my desires, what I wanted to develop and grow, why JP Morgan Chase. And I was pretty straightforward saying, to be quite honest, I actually wasn't expecting that I'd be here applying for a bank, but just from what I've heard, right, the brand, the experiences, it just seemed like the right place for me to go to next. And from there, I got the call back. I think it was a few weeks later, saying that I got the call for the internship. So then the internship started in New York. I was based in their main headquarters. And as many of you guys have referenced, that the internship is like a pipeline program into the HR rotational program. So the whole experience is an internship. The whole internship is an experience and an interview. And I would say at the end, we also had a case study where we had to pair with others in our internship class and really problem solve and present to the entire HR leadership team and the head of HR who reports into Jamie Dimon. So it was really great to just be able to even practice having a presentation, right, with that senior audience, but really being strategic and thoughtful about what do we want to recommend, right? Here's a case study, here's the problem. Ours was health and wellness. And so we partnered with the head of health and wellness and really thought about what are the company needs. We looked at aggregate data on our employees, right? How can we help our employees live healthier, more impactful lives, right? And help them become more productive at work. So, you know, put the whole recommendation together. That was part of the interview process. And basically by the end of the interview, whoever, you know, made it through, got a call for an offer. And I think we got that offer, I would say October of my senior year. So the rest of my senior year, it was just hanging out with the job offer, which was very nice. So not sure the year of, you know, what grade you guys are in school, if you guys are sophomores or rising juniors or seniors, but the earlier you can start, the better. Because that pipeline program is helpful. It's just wonderful seeing that some have gone to grad school and then gone into the program and didn't go, you know, straight from the internship perhaps. I think it's still pretty common to go through an internship program. So I think consider both options, right? And see what's out there. But a lot of it was just preparation, having conversations with members of HR. I actually reached out to someone at Morgan Chase HR just to have a conversation. I did it through LinkedIn. Like, hey, I just want to pick your brain and learn about your experience. You'd be surprised how many people are actually willing to connect. But it was completely unplanned. I took it step by step and it all worked out.
Thanks everyone. Thank you for your insights and your advice. So the next question, we don't have to necessarily go in order. Whoever would like to jump in can jump in. But what has been your favorite part of being part of your leadership development program?
I can jump in first on this one. I would say for me, it was the international exposure that I got, and also just the visibility I got to senior leadership. So I'm originally from Piscataway, New Jersey, and I had never thought about moving to the West Coast. California was never a thought in my mind. China was never a thought in my mind that I would ever make it out there. And I just feel like I grew up very insulated just because of what I was used to. I thought if I moved, furthest I would go was Texas. So the HRLP program at GE took me outside of my comfort zone. It moved me so many different places. It forced me to know how to move. I'm like a subject matter expert for moving, like under a tight deadline. I can project manage any move at this point. And it taught me so much about business around the world. What are some of the different business practices people do in one region of the US or, you know, in Asia? And it just taught me so much about the businesses at GE and just also about just seeing the world. So I would say that was the best part for me. Meeting HRLPs from all over the world, it was just so amazing. Nothing that I could have ever imagined for myself, but it added so much to my life. And so that's the first thing. And then visibility to senior leadership, second, because I'm sure with a lot of the other HR leadership programs, you have so much visibility to executives in HR. A lot of the executives at GE who are in HR were a part of the HR leadership program. So they have a personal connection to that program and a personal investment in your success. And so that was incredible. I mean, it was nothing for me to knock on the door of the chief HR officer at GE Digital because she was just so accessible. She was right outside where we worked. We'd have roundtables with her as a part of our program. And so I would say that's a big perk for the program I was in. And I'm curious to hear if other people on the panel had that same feedback for their program.
I'd love to jump in next. So Ayana, to mirror kind of what you said, similarly, we have excellent visibility into executive leadership. And, you know, many of our leaders came through our LDP and they're ex-LDPers and they love checking in with us. They love offering their mentorship to us and advice and just having that kind of perspective and somebody who's been through the same unique path as you as a leadership development program, because they truly are not very common. Right. So having this type of experience for all of us has been super unique and very beneficial. But in my experience, I'd say there's three things that I absolutely love about this program. And they are impact, varied experience, and my network. So impact, even as an intern, my group project that summer was to work on redesigning their spotlight card that they utilize in leadership development as well as succession management. So it's funny how things come full circle, and I'm now currently working in executive succession and development. And I was just starting the job and learning about the organization, getting myself grounded. And part of my learning process was understanding the transformation of the organization over the years. And I had learned that the past year, they had taken a recommendation from our project as summer interns and integrated it into their succession management process. So that to me was just such a win moment. And I was elated because having that kind of an impact, even as an intern, I think can just go to show what the rest of your career is going to be like starting in this type of program, and especially at IBM. As for varied experiences, my first rotation within IBM was quite unique even compared to that of my peers. I worked in talent acquisition, and the month before I was supposed to join, I found out that my manager had left the company. So they kind of quickly moved to find me a new manager, and she was super excited to take me in and design this whole program for me, and that I would rotate within talent acquisition for 4 months for the entire year that I was there. So I started off gaining experience in sourcing within diversity and inclusion, and that was focused on professional hires. And while I was there, I got to recruit for roles across all different business units. And we have, I believe, 12 plus business units. So just getting that cross-functional experience was really beneficial in my opinion, to just really learn about the company, because I didn't know much about corporate America before starting my job. Having my biology background, this was all very, very new to me, including the internship. And for my second mini rotation within talent acquisition, I worked within our early professional hire organization, where my clients were procurement and internal enterprise ops. And I got to work with the clients and own my requisitions. So it was very different than sourcing. And then finally, I had a little stint in what is called agile talent acquisition, where we're not aligned to a specific business unit, but instead we have a centralized system where teams will reach out if they're rapidly expanding their team, or they have positions that are very niche and unique in skill sets and have been difficult to really accumulate an organic pipeline. So that was really cool, getting that professional experience working with people who have been in their field for 10 to 15 years. And throughout all of this, I think what was the best for me was learning the skills that we were looking for in the organization. So getting that varied experience in different teams within talent acquisition was just really impactful. And like I said, we get to choose our rotation. So I can choose something totally different next. I can choose something similar within talent. It really is what I make it. And lastly was network. So within all this movement, you just get to meet so many different people. And especially when you were in office, being in Research Triangle Park here in Raleigh is one of the biggest sites IBM has in North America. So it's just a great opportunity to meet people from all different units besides HR. And within the program itself, IBM did a really great job building the cohort mentality with our LDP. We have, internal communications. If someone has a question, you could just shoot out a message, and there's 25 plus people to help point you to resources. And, being in a big company, it can be difficult to find things sometimes. So having that built-in kind of network coming into the program was great. And besides that, on a personal note, I've made some of my closest personal friends within this program. And it's just been an absolute blessing to meet them through this experience.
Yeah, I could go next. For me, it's two things. I'll preface it by saying with certain larger organizations, what you'll find when you go through different business units is that the pace that they move in can sometimes be slow, depending on, if you were a newcomer to the organization, which is not necessarily a bad thing. A slower pace doesn't equal being slow. But for organizations that are larger, you do find that the pace in which they move may be a little slower compared to how you would like to operate. So for me, moving into the different plant locations as well as on certain teams, I will say that the receptiveness of the managers I've worked with, as far as wanting to enact change and wanting to implement things that you deem are faster or better. I think that's a cool thing as far as being a part of the leadership development program, because depending on how you communicate the change to them, depending on how you communicate the value in which the change can impact the organization, I would say that the leaders and the managers that you interact with, they tend to be more receptive because they want someone who has a fresh perspective, who wants to shake things up and who wants to try something else in order to, ignite change and really lead something different within the organization. And I've seen that across, I guess, all the teams that I've worked on. I haven't really, I guess, met a manager who was not receptive to any changes that I wanted to make, because they were on the same board with me in regards to wanting to change how a certain process was being led. And then the second thing for me, which I would really say was set in my time as an intern, was like this entrepreneurial spirit, which is, here's a project that either the manager has identified for you, or if there's something you've identified as a gap in a process or in the organization, that if you bring it up and you communicate it to your manager or, whomever else in the organization, that you can then go lead that project, or you can take that opportunity to make the change. So instead of waiting for change to happen, if you see that something needs to be changed, then it's up to you to, take the next steps in order to make that change in your organization. And I love that about my organization, because I really saw that in my managers. If my managers, excuse me, if my managers saw that there was something that needed to be changed, they didn't wait for it to go up the chain of command and wait for approval in order to enact change. And, the nature of HR, I would say that, there are some things that may impede that process as far as making the change. But for most things, depending on if it's unionized or a non-unionized environment, I would say that as long as you get alignment with the stakeholders that you're working with, that you can be more entrepreneurial in the work that you do. So those are the two things that I felt were really great apart as far as being in my particular program.
I'll go next. So for me, very similar to what I've heard, I think there's some great similarities here. For me, it was the cross-functional experience in my network, right? So when I think about the cross-functional experience, really didn't know what area of HR I wanted to go to. The variety that I really got to see built a lot of great transferable skill sets that could then go anywhere else, within HR and the bank. So just being able to try different projects, being on strategic projects, having that visibility to the leadership, all that cross-functional experience ultimately made me a better, stronger HR professional. And that leads into the second point of just the networking connections. Because JP Morgan Chase is so big, it made it feel smaller, right? Like our company has, I think, 260,000 plus employees in HR. I don't even have the number off the top of my head, but several thousand, right? And so just being able to have those connection points, it'll have to be more resourceful, helps you to just expand your learning, right? And so I know it sounds ironic because it's a development program, but for me to say my favorite part was development, it really was, because it was surprising. It's just, you got the mentorship as part of like the network, right? And it felt very genuine. It wasn't just like you're paired with a mentor, here's a person, right? Across the board, a lot of my peers really felt it was genuine. And then it was the connections made on the team, right? And connections with my cohort. So despite me being in one function of the bank, within HR in the bank, and like my other colleagues and other teams, we would still go ahead and ping each other on Skype with any questions, right? As long as it's not confidential information, but we really learn from each other. And at the end of the day, that helps craft your brand internally. That really helps facilitate the learning even further. So without that network and that cross-functional experience, I don't think the program would have been what it is today. And I'm looking at the time. I know we have other questions to go through, but at a high level, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, thanks, Paula. On that note, it's amazing how time flies, right, when we're all talking and enjoying these insights. So I want to thank everyone continuing to share these thoughts. I guess I just want to use these last few minutes to combine all the other questions together into sort of an ultimate question. So what advice or suggestions might you have for our students who are interested in pursuing these programs, whether it's what they should be including in their resume or any interviewing tips or tips around networking? What are some pieces of advice that you can provide to our students today?
I can jump in and start that. So what I would say is my biggest advice when looking into rotational programs is that be open-minded. Be open-minded to all opportunities. Go outside your comfort zone. I know for me personally, I'm from New Jersey, and I was thinking I'm not leaving New Jersey, New York area. I'm never leaving. And then kind of going to Alabama, now being in Texas, you get this different view. I never thought I'd be doing this. So really just being open-minded to opportunity that you don't think you'll be comfortable doing, just going for it. I think also too, just to know in a rotational program, likely most rotational programs are mobile. You have to be willing to relocate. But I think it's just something to really think about and really think, am I willing to relocate and do this? And also too, I think, kind of going more like the interview way. I know really great advice that was given to me before I was interviewing was, following the STAR method. STAR the situation, STAR the task, the action and results. So it's really concise, that the person that's interviewing you, they can really understand, okay, this is the steps that they took and this is how they were capable of doing that. So really making sure you're able to tell that story in that way. And I've been to now, talking to other HR folks, is that I think most of the time people expect that way to answer. So I think just keep that in mind when practicing for interviews, follow that method. If you look up online, like certain interview questions, just follow that method. And I think also too, before you interview, I would say look into the company, read about the company, not only understand like their background, where their headquarters are, but even their latest news, current events. Because that's something that, at the end when let's say an interviewer asks, oh, do you have any questions? You could say, oh, I recently saw this acquisition. How is this affecting your organization? And I think just kind of showing that you're interested really stands out.
Yeah, I could jump in next. So an advice my manager has given me, I would say like 6 years ago, that has always stuck with me is take the hardest job that they have to offer. And it's really strange advice, but when I think about all the opportunities that have come my way and then my thought process as far as approaching the opportunity, I always think about it in the perspective of how is this going to enable me to grow, and is this going to be challenging? And I've found that like in one of the roles that I've taken, which was working on the people analytics team, which was very uncomfortable for me, that I grew the most from it, and that I'm using that skill set very like a lot in a lot of the work that I'm doing. And if I strayed away from taking that hard and uncomfortable job, I don't know if I would have gotten the accolades that I've gotten now, nor do I think I would be as advanced in the work that I'm doing now. So by taking the most challenging assignment that I knew would be uncomfortable for me, and I'm being able to push through it, it enabled me to grow a lot as a professional. So I would say that would enable you to potentially learn a lot about either what you like or confirm what you dislike. So regardless, if you take it, you're going to learn something about yourself. So that would be my advice.
I'll hop in here next. So I have two pieces of advice that start off with my background that I really haven't shared much on. I was a biology major in undergrad and thought I wanted to go into the medical field, and came to the realization that I absolutely hate blood and all bodily functions. So I realized when I graduated, I don't want to work in a lab. What am I supposed to do? So that's when I kind of found my way into HR and went to Rutgers grad school, and felt very insecure applying to internships, to be honest, because I'm looking at all these people around me who have experience in HR, who were majoring in HR undergrad, minoring in HR undergrad. And here I am coming from my internship experience being in hospitals and, just medically related. The first thing I did was I got into the career services office. And here's another plug for you, Carlos, that I attribute so much of, my journey to the career services office, because the first, second week of school, I know the career fair happens quickly. I was in there. I went to see Ildi. She helped me with my resume. Just started building my connections. In my second year of grad school, I worked as a peer ambassador in the career services office. And I was also a teaching assistant for Len's class career management, which Jessica was in and is now a peer ambassador. So very cool to see this come full circle. But so I sat through his class twice, technically, and learned a lot from his class. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to interviewing is be prepared and focus on your soft skills, because these employers are not expecting you to have the technical expertise that you may think they're looking to have. what these leadership development programs are truly looking for is how hungry you are to learn and grow, what your learning agility is like. You know, if you have the ability to build relationships, to collaborate better, to have big ideas and just really accelerate the organization forward, that's what they're looking for. And that is what I kind of realized looking back at my experience, because when I walked into my interview for the IBM internship, my interviewer looks down at my resume and she goes, "Oh, you're the bio major. I've been wanting to talk to you." And it turns out she was also a bio major in college. So you just never know what types of connections you're going to make with people. And your soft skills are transferable and they're just the basis of your career. So, you know, when it comes to interview prep, when it comes to tailoring your resume, my biggest piece of advice there is really focus on those soft skills and try to show them what kind of person you are. Because I think that is something that is maybe not focused on enough, is that reality, being unique, being you, being your true self, and not being so scared to give the answers that, you know, you really want to give. And that is the same kind of mentality that we now should have in the workplace, is that you can't be scared. You can be scared, but, you know, you still have to take action and move forward and use that fear to drive you. So just be prepared and get into that career services office, because they are awesome in there. They know what is going on. They know what you're, you know, and I got to know them. So they knew my personality and they kind of directed me to different internships and companies. So really just practice your relationship building starting there.
And I just want to plug real quick something, really repeating something that Paula said, and that is to network. And I'm so glad you said that, Paula, because I didn't start reaching out to people on LinkedIn that I didn't know, but I didn't start doing informational interviews until this past year when I was looking for another opportunity. And it's so important that you all do that. You have me now as a contact. So if you're interested in the GE leadership program, talk to me. I can get you in contact with people who still work at GE. If you are interested in any positions within Disney, they don't have an HR leadership program, but there is one for IT / software engineering. Reach out to me, and I'm sure the other panelists would be open to talking to you all as well. Like, definitely get yourself an advocate inside the business where you want to work, because I've never come across someone who said no, like Paula said. So I just want to plug that real quick.
I'll go quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for me, it's two really quick things. So the first one is being realistic about what you want from the program. My program is very heavily focused on manufacturing HR, and that's not for everybody. And if you don't think you could work in that kind of environment and you think you'd be more comfortable in a corporate environment, self-select out. So I think it's really important to, as you saw through all of our conversations, all of our programs are incredibly different and serve different pipelines. So shop around, figure out what you want to do, what your focuses are, and really target those programs, because you don't want to end up committing to a 3.5 to however many long program and then end up in a position that you're not happy in. So I would say be realistic about your expectations for yourself and the expectations that the company sets for you. And then the second one that I had was kind of in relation to what Romario was saying, and it's take risks and like be open to challenging positions. I have not selected any of the rotations that I have gone into, and that's not normal for my program, but I've had opportunities brought to me. I have not felt ready for any of them, but I did them anyways, and I just kind of jumped in, tried my best, and I excelled at them, and that has brought me to other opportunities that I never thought I would get to. So I think it's just trusting in the program, trusting in your leaders, and trusting in your abilities, even if you don't feel that they're 100% there. The people are selecting you because they believe in you and they want you to do well, and they think it's going to develop you. So trust the process. So I think that's a huge thing too, is you might not feel ready. I still don't feel ready, but it's okay. You'll get there. I think is a big thing to be aware of too.
And Paula, any final words of wisdom for us?
Sorry, I was on mute again, but this panel is amazing. You guys really did cover off a lot of great advice, echoing everything you guys said. Just believe in yourself, right? Be open-minded to learning, lean into the discomfort. Things are not always going to be easy or come naturally. They don't expect you to know it, right? You're going to develop it through the development program. I think one of the #1 qualities that teams look for aside from being like a great team player and easy to work with, is just someone who's coachable, right? Are you able to learn, grow, and develop? And if you're able to show that agility and that growth over time, that's where they're going to judge you on. Not so much where you started, but that growth that they've seen in you, right? And so as long as you keep that in mind and stay positive and continue asking the questions, stay curious, your learning will continue to develop and everything else will follow.